Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TV7's continuing coverage of senior men's soccer. Today, here at Lily Creek Field, the semifinals of the, what is it now?
Milan Vrab.
The Milan Vrab Fruit Hotel Cup. This little name change this year, Frank, which we'll get into a little later. My name's John Metcalf, along with Frank Movalso. This afternoon's match, actually this evening's match by the time we get started, between two old rivals, Sudbury United and the Italia Flyers. As I mentioned, this was supposed to be the final tonight, Frank, but yesterday's inclement weather did not make it possible to play the full schedule, so it was abbreviated to today. And we're here at the first semifinal. The other semifinal between Corsi Masonry and Croatia Adria is just about to get underway at the far side as well. Our officials this evening, in the middle, Pietro D'Angelo. On the lines, Iggy Spadafora and Tony Ostrachik. And this is going to be an interesting match today, Frank, because Italia Flyers are without two of, really, I think, one of their key players. Van Zorbas and Carl Frank are sitting out. Apparently a contract dispute with the home club, I hear.
I think more of an injury.
Either way, we'll see how that affects as play is underway. Tantalo with it for Sudbury United. Now, you'll notice they're in white, and they have Pat Mario's on their uniforms. That's what they were called last year, but the sponsorship was not renewed, and you don't just throw out a set of uniforms that quickly, and that's why it still says Pat Mario, so don't get confused if we call them Sudbury United. As the ball is put into play, Chris Binks, number 12 for Italia Flyers. Over, picked off by Izan Rubai. Rubai with the long ball over the end line, and the Italia Flyers will have the goal kick. Now, normally we have 45-minute, 45-minute halves in soccer games, but the tournament format, because it's been so compact, has gone to 35-minute halves. How do you think that's going to affect things today, Frank?
Oh, needless to say, each team is going to have to accelerate their pace of play. They're going to be taking a very close look in terms of what's happening therein, defending extremely well because of the short duration of the periods. They can't afford to make any kind of a mistake.
As Palladino has the ball on the near sideline, put up to Frank Anselmo, back in the middle to Palladino. Nicolucci just coming off suspension to Rubai in the middle. Rubai looking for Anselmo, but it's picked off. Matt Binks with it for the Flyers. Binks coming up. He almost lost it. Frank Kuznik with it, but Mario D'Agostino clears it out of harm's way. Brunet puts it back to the keeper, Gino Rocca. And just to let you know how these two teams got to this spot today, Sudbury United beat the Italia Flyers in the first game of the tournament 2-0, and then beat Ital Pasta 3-0. And as mentioned, the Flyers lost their first game 2-0 to the same Sudbury United, but they really piled it up against Alianza 7-0, and that's what got them here. They nipped Cambrian Construction by 1 goal on goal differential. So that's how these two teams got to this spot. And the whistle on the infraction on number 10, Glenn Bryson, and number 17, Americo Tantalo. Oh, correction, number 7, Danny Palladino will put it in for Sudbury United. Nice ball across the middle, but Izdan Rubai could not convert that.
John, just getting back to the issue of Carl Franks and Van Zorbas sitting on the bench, I think the other mitigating factor here is that Pat Mario, or Sudbury United in this case, has come off of this is their second game in the space of about 4 hours. So, and they're a little older team, so it'll be interesting to see how they hang in there.
This is true, as this team has been together for a long time, and we'll review league standings and other league happenings as this match progresses. As the whistle goes and the infraction's called, Corey Brunet is going to put it in play for the Flyers as they make their first penetration into the Sudbury United zone. De Giacomo Antonio up to Rubai. Rubai placing it back for Rob Scarcelloni. Rob and Marino in the back line. Marino the keeper for Sudbury United as Renato Nicolucci chases down the ball, puts it up, and Matt Binks has it now. Binks to his brother Chris. Brunet with it now. Brunet in the middle, looking to set something up. Up to Lenny Samuels. And back to Mario D'Agostino, and it'll go back to the keeper. So, yes, I think you're right, Frank. We'll definitely have to see a little pressing game today as the ball's thrown on the far side to Joe Hamer. Hamer with it, avoiding Frank Kuznik. Looking to take his time, set things up, puts it in the middle to Dan Palladino. Bryson picks it up there. Frank Kuznik with it now. Sean Dowling with it now. Ooh, a dangerous boot there as Dowling gets a hold of it. Dowling steering into the middle. And I think we've got something in the box there. Dino Cacciati was pushing his way through, and things are getting a little rough early here.
Looks like we're looking at a penalty shot. Referee has decided that too many players came in contact with the Flyer player who was trying to maneuver the ball to the top of the box. And I don't know who it was, but somebody got called.
I thought Dino Cacciati actually didn't hit the player with the ball. I thought he hit someone else, but nonetheless it happened in the box. And it appears, yes, the penalty kick is being awarded. So definitely the first break of the contest to Italia Flyers. And without those two experienced veterans that we mentioned, this is key for them.
Absolutely. Penalty shot in a 35-minute half game is certainly a critical factor. Anybody who follows the sport of soccer knows that the odds are against the goalie, unfortunately. So the Flyers are certainly in the driving position, at least at this point in time.
Glenn Bryson against Marino Scarcelloni. Bryson, and is saved by Scarcelloni. And actually, if there's a keeper who's going to make that save, it's a Marino Scarcelloni.
Absolutely. Probably the top goalie in the league, and there's evidence of it. Just a beautiful anticipation of the shot. That's his strength, too. He's a little older player, but he's got unbelievable experience, and he knows exactly where that ball's going.
Or he's got a big supply of horseshoes around his neck.
One of the two, yeah.
Nice save by Scarcelloni as he puts it up into play. Matt Binks heads into the middle. Binks picks it up, sends it over. Mario D'Agostino up the middle. Frank Kuznik now with it. Scooter Sherlock up to Chris Binks on the left side. Sherlock trying to get it. Battling, and the handball. Inadvertent, but nonetheless called.
Two very young players, Chris Binks and Patrick Sherlock, probably, 16, 17 years of age, cracking the senior league for the first time and doing a really good job.
And also, along with Matt Binks, certainly a young nucleus as the ball goes into the touch and the Flyers throw it into the keeper, Raka. Just to give you a bit of a review as well, right now the league standings find Croatia Adria in first place. They have finished their schedule with 6 wins, 2 losses, and a tie for 13 points, but they may not sit in that perch for first place long, as the Italia Flyers have 1 game remaining and they have 6 wins and 2 losses, followed by Sudbury United, who are tied with them at 5 wins, a loss, and 2 ties. But should those two teams remain tied at the end of the season, apparently according to the league bylaws, from what I've been told, the team with the most wins, Italia Flyers, would get it, but nothing's solved there. And Corsi Masonry have finished their schedule at 3-3 and 9 points. Cambrian Construction has a game left, and they have 3 wins, 2 losses, 3 ties for 9 points. Elliott Lake United have 7 games played, 4 wins and 3 losses. Nickel City Lasers, your club, are done for the regular season, Frank, at 3 wins and 6 losses for 6 points. Ital Pasta and the Polish White Eagles are tied with 2 wins, 4 losses, and a tie apiece for 5 points. And then bringing up to the rear, Alianza, one of the expansion teams this year, they have 0 wins, 7 losses, and a tie. Nice play by Corey Brunet there on Tarico there. Ball goes into touch, and it will be keeper's ball. A good aggressive play there by the defender, number 2, Corey Brunet.
Yeah, both teams seem to be up for the game. The ball's going back and forth despite a bit of a wind factor, but they're into it. We're looking at a pretty good game.
As I mentioned from the outset, these two teams met in the first game of the tournament, and United end up with a 2-0 win. So obviously the Flyers would like a little revenge, I would think. As Brunet comes in to pick that ball up, he's battling with Palladino for it, and Selmo with it on that side. And Selmo let down his guard. I'm not sure what happened there as Pat Sherlock picks it up in the middle to Samuels. Samuels up on the left side. Nice touch to Chris Binks from Kuznik. Bring on that far side, looking for Scott Peterson, but it's put back to Marino Scarcellini by his brother Rob. But almost a dangerous play there, as Marino had to get back in the box to corral it.
Marino can't make contact with that ball outside the box, so he literally had to wait for that ball to come back in, or otherwise use his foot to clear it.
And Scott Peterson was bearing down on him, as Scott was just the recipient of a rough ride from Rob Scarcelloni there, so the free kick for the Italia Flyers. John Rocca sends it into play. Battling for it was Nicolucci and Sherlock, and Nicolucci came back with it, but Chris Binks picks it up. Binks on that far side for Dowling, and a tie-up there between Cacciati and Dowling. And certainly tempers are a little testy early in this match, there's no doubt.
As you said, John, these teams, two teams have a history, actually two clubs, as opposed to teams, have a history of doing battle very often in this league and being at the top of the league. So there's probably no love loss here.
As we have a set play here for the Italia Flyers. Chris Binks and Frank Kuznik will set up. Kuznik with the bending shot, didn't get much on it, and the ball goes harmlessly to the keeper. A bit of a blustery day here at Lily Creek, but certainly not as blustery as your game yesterday, I assume, Frank.
Well, actually, it was a big factor in the game. Both teams were struggling in terms of just trying to maintain the control of the ball. Still a factor, though, in this game. There is a bit of a win from the north to the south.
As Danny Palladino picks the ball off from John Rocca. Palladino with the opportunity, and he put it over the net. But a good opportunity for Sudbury United there, Danny Palladino.
Danny, unfortunately, he was moving to the left side, which means he had to use his left foot to make contact, and not being his dominant foot, a little harder to control.
Certainly not a lot of dominant lefties in the league, I imagine, Frank.
No, not a lot. Mind you, in terms of if one was to look at a team that has that kind of two-foot capability, you're certainly looking at one in the form of a Sudbury United.
As Peterson will put it in play for Italia Flyers. Correction, Glenn Bryson puts it into Peterson. John Rocca sends it up. Rocca looking for Pat Sherlock. Joe Hamer with it. Hamer looking in the middle, and on this far side, the offside flag went up, and the whistle to indicate that. The Flyers will put it into play. We're about 10 minutes into this first half of the Milan Vrab Memorial Fruit Cup Hotel Tournament semifinals here on TV7. That's a mouthful in any language, Frank. As another whistle, things, definitely referee D'Angelo trying to keep control here, but no real play forming on any side so far.
No, both teams maybe being a little bit too cautious, but wanting to stay in this game and not give any bad breaks away.
Cacciati and Bryson are having their own little personal war over there as Lenny Samuels tries to pick it up and plays it off his shoulder. That's why he got it so cleanly. Just to mention the other semifinal, as I mentioned, that's in progress right now. Corsi Masonry taking on Croatia Adria. Corsi defeating Cambrian Construction 1-0 and LA Lake United 3-0, while Adria tied Ital Pasta 1-1 and defeated the Polish White Eagles 2-1. So they're playing right now, and if we get an update for that one, we will certainly pass it on. Chris Binks with it. Binks battling, but Mario D'Agostino, I apologize, picks it up. Brunet has it go off of him, and then off of Tantalo, and as a result, the Italia Flyers will play it in.
You have some evidence there of a little bit of anxiety between some of the team players here in opposing teams. Hopefully people will just stick with the game and nothing will erupt.
As Frank Anselmo picks that ball up now into the middle to Joe Hamer. Hamer with it, back to Anselmo. Nice play by Matt Binks to intercept that. Knocking the touch and the throw in for Sudbury United. And just for those who may not know in the audience watching, that Milan Vrab was a very active worker within the Sudbury Senior Men's Soccer League, as well as the Sudbury Regional Soccer Association. Unfortunately passed away last fall, just shortly after the team he was lately involved with, Corsi Masonry, copped the league playoff title, which certainly was a coup for them last year, and that's why his name is associated with this tournament, and I'm sure everyone in the league sorely does miss him. Also having one son, Mike, playing for, Mark is playing for Corsi Masonry still. Mark works as a bartender at Eastside Mario's.
Yeah, we should also mention that Mr. Vrab was the president of the Senior Men's Soccer League for the last 2 years, and having the pleasure of participating in that league, he did an excellent job, just a super job in managing the league.
And also another point that must be brought out, I understand he was instrumental in bringing the Lake United squad into the league, expanding the focus of the Sudbury League a bit. Things getting a little rough there. Kuznik and Cacciati, and I think Frank Kuznik is going to get booked for that extracurricular shove after the whistle, as we've got a lot of talking here, sort of like the Jays Tigers game earlier today.
I was going to say, Jesus, see a little bit more of this. We should be looking for helmets coming off the benches. But like we said, at the risk of repeating ourselves here, we have two teams here with a history, and part of that history is a little bit of animosity.
Now it's interesting there, the little tanglement between Cacciati and Kuznik there. The whistle blown, I think if nothing else, if Frank had done nothing else, it would have been the end of it. But that extra shove causes him to be booked with the cautionary yellow. And
I think Frank's point was that he felt that the Sudbury United player was falling too easily and wanted to demonstrate that with the nudge. But unfortunately, as you say, John, that's not the right thing to do.
As we go back to play, the Flyers will put it into play. The booking occurring. Bryson putting it in now. Bryson, nice high ball. Kuznik going after it. And Dan Palladino picks it up. Palladino up to Frank Anselmo. Anselmo back looking for Palladino. Palladino keeps it in touch. Or no, he didn't. Flag went up and it's turned over. Binks, Matt throwing it in. No one there for him, and it didn't make it in, and that breeze is what kept it out, actually. Palladino and Kuznik battling for it. Palladino still controls, puts it in the middle. Binks with it now. Binks to Binks. Sherlock intercepted by Nicolucci. Nicolucci and Tantalo over to Anselmo. And the whistle there. And Sudbury United will put it back into play. D'Agostino, nice ball up in the middle, but Sherlock knocks away nicely. Nicolucci with it. Nicolucci wheeling and dealing. Marino to Giacomo up there for Tantalo. And he got clear, but he couldn't get control as Rubai has it. Rubai with the nice putback. Johnny Rocca goes over there and puts in the touch. Good defensive play by John Rocca on that play, and the throw-in for Sudbury United.
That was actually very dangerous situation. Mr. Brunet was right on the spot and was able to clear.
Joe Hamer battling with John Rocca on the far side, and I think we're going to have another booking here, as, or possibly not, as Pietro D'Angelo talks to John Rocca, and it will be a free kick for Sudbury United on the far side. Marino Giacomo is going to put it into play. As they set things up, not a very high ball, and it's flicked away by Brunet. Chris Binks coming over to get it, and he clears out of harm's way. Dowling and Scarcelloni battling for it. Matt Binks can't pick it up. Frank Kuznik. Kuznik coming up. He's got Sean Dowling on his far side. Dowling has Cacciati between himself and the net. Dowling puts it in the middle. Nice ball. Nice header by Renato Nicolucci. And Chris Binks can't keep it in play there, but a good little effort there by the Italia Flyers.
Flyers taking advantage of a ball coming down the wing, and as you said, John, did a good job getting in the middle to try to create an opportunity there.
Certainly, I think you have to look at the younger legs of Italia Flyers, giving them a little advantage on that wing area, and their speed might become a factor as this match wears on. But being 20 minutes shorter than normal, it may not be that much. Ball's up in the air, and Selmo and Bryson went after it. Hamer loses it to Peterson. Peterson was on that far side. Peterson sends it up, looking for Kuznik. Kuznik was waiting so he wouldn't be offside, but it goes into touch and the Flyers will throw it in. Johnny Rocca to perform the throw-in. Lenny Samuels right back to him. Rocca looking to set it up. Up to Frank Kuznik. Kuznik being marked by Mario D'Agostino. Goes into touch off of D'Agostino and the throw-in. So a little bit of control here right now for the Italia Flyers. 17 and a half minutes approximately into this first half. And it's 0-0 on TV7.
Mario D'Agostino, number 4, playing the center defensive position. But Mario seems to be always in the right place. He's just a very good player.
He's been around, so he certainly knows where to be as Dowling puts it up for Binks. Binks gets by Palladino. And this time they called it on Chris Binks. Dino Cacciati, I think, got away with something on that one.
Yeah, it's one of those difficult calls to make. I think Chris was taking advantage of the fact that he was in the box, and Mr. Cassiati was pressing as well, so tough call to make.
That time the Flyers gambled.
Yeah.
Scarcelloni Marino Scarcelloni will put it in for Sudbury United. Nice high ball. Hamer and Sherlock going after it. Flyers end up with it. Samuels and Palladino collide. Sherlock trying to get in there to Giacomo Antonio right through Peterson's legs. Back to Rob Scarcelloni. Scarcelloni to Giacomo Antonio. Giacomo Antonio. Hamer can't control it. Ball goes off of Bryson and Hamer and goes up. Frank Anselmo with it. Anselmo and Matt Binks. Nice move by Frank Anselmo there. But Corey Brunet picks it up. Frank Anselmo still battling in there. And Gino Rocca came out of his net there to get that one. And he'll throw it quickly. Ball's put ahead by Peterson. And he gets it back. A little ping pong here. Cacciati back to D'Agostino and back to the net. Once again, a nice high ball from the goal area. Tantalo over to Rubai. Rubai coming through. Rubai holds it up. Rubai tried to put up the Hamer. Danny Palladino with the shot, and the offside flag goes up. I believe Joe Hamer was the one that was guilty of being in the wrong spot.
Both teams very, very aggressive and not at all hesitating in terms of making contact with the player. And certainly 50-50 balls is everybody's challenging. There's just no backing off whatsoever.
As we're 20 minutes into this first half, again, that time is approximate. The referee is the one who keeps the official time. Doesn't matter what level of soccer you're at, so you never know what's going on.
That's true, John, and some referees have been known to give you 2 or 3 minutes, sometimes 3 or 4 minutes, and other referees have been known to call it right on the dime.
Short of extra time, of course. Frank Kuznik flicks it up, looking for Lenny Samuels, but he's not going to get there. Marino Scarcelloni plays it up. Nice ball from Scarcelloni. Frank Anselmo is not going out full speed on that wing spot, I've noticed, Frank.
Well, you can see he's bandaged in terms of that left leg. And you're right, John, he's not moving as quickly as he normally is.
Certainly that could become a factor as Chris Binks comes on the left side here. Chris Binks, and I think Chris had too much time to think on that one because he didn't cut towards the net at all, and he misplayed it off his left foot.
It's still not a good effort for a 16 or 17-year-old. He's under pressure there. He knows he's got people coming after him, and just one of those unfortunate situations where he didn't make good contact.
We've got a substitution, the first of the game for either side. For Italia Flyers, number 18, Thomas Black replaces number 5, John Rocca. Scarcelloni sending the ball into play. Peterson sending it towards the Sudbury United end. It's up to Danny Palladino. Palladino with it. Palladino looking for a little help. Hamer comes for it. Hamer sends it to the far side looking for Rob Scarcelloni. Scarcelloni with it. Up. Black gets it. Renato Nakalucci, as I mentioned, just coming off of a league suspension for this weekend, and he almost lost that ball. Brunet with it, up to Chris Binks in the middle. Binks wheeling. Binks moving down, trying to look for Frank Kuznik. Kuznik and D'Agostino. Nice play by Frank Kuznik. And Kuznik is dropped in the box by number 10, Dino Cacciati. I don't think there was any doubt about that one.
That's right, John. No doubt whatsoever. Dino had no option but to take the player down from behind, and there was, like I said, there's just no option. We're looking at a penalty shot here. The second of the game, which is unusual. Rarely do you see 2 penalty shots in the space of about 10 or 15 minutes.
And another break for Italia Flyers there. Actually, you have to give Frank Kuznik the credit there. He put himself between the defender with the ball, and the defender had no choice once he got free than to chop him up.
Yeah, looking back at the first penalty shot, we should note that the shot came to the left side of Mr. Scarcelloni. which is the near post in terms of the camera vision. So it'd be interesting to see what the Flyers are going to do with that past history, whether they'll go to the same side or choose the opposite side.
Different player to take it this time. Glenn Bryson took the first one. Number 12, Chris Binks will take this one, and we'll see if the young rookie is up to the task. The shot's up, and it's in. At the 23rd minute, Chris Binks puts the Italia Flyers up 1-0. Nice goal, nice shot.
Excellent shot. Went to the same corner, and Mr. Scarscaloni went the other way, and we saw the bulge in the net.
The bulging of the twine, and the Flyers are up on first blood. But once again, you have to give credit to Frank Kuznik on that one, getting himself in a clear position, and the defender brought him down in the box, and as they say, the rest is history. So Sudbury United will be looking for the equalizer before the end of the half. They've got about 12 minutes to do it. Dan Palladino up to DiGiacomo Antonio, dueling with Samuels. Nicolucci sends it forward. Tantalo gets through, and I think we have a push call just outside the box, so Sudbury United might get that equalizer back a little quicker than probably even they expected. Joe Hamer lining up with the referee, and
it's a dangerous situation. Sudbury United, certainly in the form of Renato, there have a lot of capabilities in terms of taking this kind of a shot, and I think we're going to see a bit of a test here.
As we have 4 United players, Palladino, DiGiacomo Antonio, Nicolucci, and Hamer all around that ball, so who knows what's going to happen as DiGiacomo Antonio departs.
I'm betting on number 13, Mr. Renato. What do you say, John?
Mr. Nicolucci.
Mr. Nicolucci.
Number 13 looks good to me. And there it is. Nice little set piece. And the clear shot at the net. And we should go to Vegas now because we called that one. And not really a hard opportunity for Gino Rocca to handle. And he'll send it into play. Chris Binks, the only goal scorer so far, back to his brother Matt. And that was almost an adventure on that play, putting it back into the keeper. You have to give Sudbury United a little credit there, but I think they're going to have to open it up and press a little more to get back into this one, or at least get on even terms before the half. As the ball flies in the middle, Dowling goes after it. And another possible warning, and as I mentioned, Renato Nicolucci is just coming off of suspension, so I don't think he wants to put himself back on, let's put it that way. The fiery veteran captain of the Sudbury United squad. And Pietro D'Angelo is bringing over Dowling, Nicolucci for a conversation. Whether the book is going to come out or not, I don't know, but it looks like that's just about what it's going to be.
Mr. D'Angelo, I think, is going to earn his money this game. We're looking at 2 teams that are going to put him in a situation where there's going to be a lot of pressure in terms of looking at exactly what takes place play by play.
Long ball from Mario D'Agostino goes over the end line, and once again, watching Frank Anselmo go down there, he is not at 100%, and I think that's going to affect things. He's looking either for water or a substitution to the bench right now as he comes towards the middle. A substitution for Italia Flyers. Number 17, Colin Lowian, is in. Frank has come off. I unfortunately don't see who's substituted in. Oh, I do now. Number 11, Cesare Pacino.
With Frank coming off, Sudbury United certainly has lost some scoring power there. There's no doubt about that.
But if he's not 100%, it
That's right.
remains to be seen how much of a loss that is. As Pacino on the far side, Peterson gets it. Frank Kuznik going after it now. Kuznik with it. Kuznik marked by DiGiacomo Antonio. Kuznik fooling around with it over there. Kuznik back to Peterson. Peterson across to the middle. Chris Binks coming in. Nice effort by Chris Binks to get up there, but the ball was over his head as Dan Palladino watches it go into touch and throws it in. Scooter Sherlock picking it up for the Flyers. Nicolucci and Sherlock. Nice play by Nicolucci there. Rubai sending into the middle where he gets some support. Tantalo with it. Tantalo battling with Glenn Bryson as play goes on. Nice stop there by Lowian. Samuels up. Frank Kuznik slips by Nice save by Marino Scarscaloni, and the ball is knocked into touch. But once again, Frank Kuznik had the better of number 10, Dino Cacciati there, and almost it became a 2-0.
Frank Kuznik doing a good job to take advantage of a breakaway going in there. Made a good choice in terms of looking for the corner, but again, Mr. Scarcelloni acting very, very calmly, actually, in terms of getting his foot out there and deflecting the ball away.
Almost to the point of nonchalantness.
I wonder if he really knew what he was doing.
As the ball's put in by Brunet on the corner kick, the header by Peterson, the Giacomo with it, and it goes on the end line, but the pushing infraction called against Italia Flyers, and quickly Sudbury United come out. Nicolucci up to Rubai. He can't handle it. Matt Binks and Rubai collide. Matt Binks up to Chris Binks. Binks looking up again up for Frank Kuznik. Kuznik with the left foot, and it's picked up easily by Marino Scarcelloni. Quickly up to Pacino. Pacino back with it now. Pacino turns, looking back to Rob Scarcelloni. Sudbury United slowing it up a bit here. Mario D'Agostino sends it forward. Matt Binks takes it. Cacciati with it. Cacciati dribbling a bit. Palladino, and this time another booking coming. Number 12, Chris Binks. I think he got that foot up just a little high, and he is getting a little conference with the referee and a booking. And that's the second one of the game for Italia Flyers. Frank Kuznik picking the other one up early, both involving the same player, Dino Cacciati. Dino's been in all the big plays so far, whether he likes it or not.
I think in all fairness to Chris Binks, if this would have been any other game that didn't start off in the kind of ruckus way that it did, that probably wouldn't have been a yellow card. But under the circumstances, I think the referee is trying to regain control.
As Cacciati gingerly walks it off. Probably have a little injury time on that one. We're almost at the 30-minute mark approximately of this first half. It's 1-0 the Italia Flyers, and we've got a couple substitutions here for Sudbury United. Number 18, Rob Segsworth, and number 2, Roy Fabiani enter the game. It looks like Cacciati's all right, but when you get a little older, those bones get a little more sore when you get those type of infractions. As the ball goes forward, and it's going to go over the end line, and it will be a corner kick for Sudbury United. Sudbury United hasn't had really that many solid scoring opportunities, right?
No, they haven't, and I guess I'm going back to my earlier statement about the loss of Frank and Salmoy. There is some capability up front there, but it certainly isn't to what they normally have. So I'm curious as to whether they can generate the offensive power they're going to need to be able to get back in this game.
And also there, as the ball goes awry there on the corner kick and it gets knocked into touch, Sudbury United will have the throw-in. Another thing we have to mention here is actually their leading scorer and the co-leading scorer in the league, Mario Chiri, I believe has gone overseas to start playing his fall pursuit of hockey, and he's not here. Certainly when you have a goal scorer like that not here, that does not help you either.
Absolutely, and the combination of Mr. Cherry and Mr. Anselmo up front, front has proved to be disastrous for a lot of their opponents.
Leading the scoring standings in league play right now, as mentioned, Mario Chiri and Dave Barrett of Corsi Masonry, each with 6 goals apiece. And Dave Barrett playing in the other semifinal right now. A little frazzled action there, as I think number 18, Thomas Black, brought down number 11, Cesare Pacino. And as a result, they will have the foul called and another free kick for Sudbury United on that far side. And the ball lost as the Italia Flyers pick up. DiGiacomo gets it back. DiGiacomo into the middle. Brunet trying to clear it. Hamer and Sherlock colliding. Rob Scarcelloni with a solid shot, but it just to the left of the far post.
Nice shot by Rob. That's all he could do. The ball was in the air, and he took a shot at the net. Was able to get that ball up and back down towards the goalie, but unfortunately missed the far post.
As I mentioned, these are the semifinals of the Milan Vrab Memorial Fruit Cup Tournament. The final will be played tomorrow night, Monday, August 19th. That is, as I mentioned, a postponement. This time slot was originally slated for the final game, but I don't know if anyone's going to hear this after, but watch your local media outlet, and they will probably have the final result for you. Also, another upcoming Cup final, the Charity Cup final on Wednesday, August the 21st, 7 o'clock at Delki Dozy, will match Croatia Adria versus LA Lake United at 7 o'clock. As Lenny Samuels gets the ball in the middle, Sherlock with the header. Nice play there by Italia Flyers, coming right back with a flurry and a solid scoring opportunity.
Patrick did really well to get up on that ball and was trying to deflect it over the goalie, but Scarcellini was there to make the save.
As Rob Segsworth has it on that far side, Segsworth loses it to Corey Brunet. We have to give point guard Scooter Sherlock a little credit there for getting up that high. Point guards don't normally jump that high, Frank. As Matt Binks sends it forward. Kuznik and D'Agostino battling for it, and they came up even on that one. Kuznik ends up with it. It goes into touch, and the corner kick. Once again, Frank Kuznik doing a lot for Italia Flyers.
Certainly the acquisition of Frank Kuznik for the Flyers has been tremendous in terms of a quality player, certainly an excellent striker. I think we said in the past telecast that the combination of Frank and Mr. Castercino maybe next year is going to be an interesting combination to watch in terms of offensive talent.
I haven't talked to Carlo of late, but I know his rehabilitation's coming along well. He's trying to get back into shape for Laurentian season. But he's optimistic he'll be playing this year. But certainly when you come off of anterior cruciate surgery, it's not a pretty thing to try to come back from.
Well, hopefully he'll do well. We'd like to see Carlo back. He's a beautiful player to watch.
Last year's Golden Boot winner and leading league scorer. And speaking of the Laurentian Voyageurs, they open camp Monday, August 26th up at Laurentian University. Greg Zorbas getting ready for another season of varsity soccer, and if you check the local papers or listen to the things from Laurentian, they'll let you know when they're playing at home, and I imagine they'll have another solid squad again, Frank.
Absolutely. Mr. Zorbas has just performed wonders with the varsity team over the last few years. He's always been closer in national championships, and given the size of the university and where we're situated in this province, let alone this country, I think we really got to compliment in terms of what he's accomplished.
Takes that golden touch. As we're at full time here at Lily Creek, your score reads the Italia Flyers 1, Sudbury United 0. We're at halftime. We'll be back in a moment.
This is Carl and Terry. Like many youngsters in the CHAMP program, they lost their limbs in accidents. That's why CHAMP say,
whatever game you play, play safe.
Play safe.
A wetland gift from Ducks Unlimited Canada.
Somewhere beneath your lawn are the lines that provide your home with the services you take for granted. These include gas mains, hydro lines, cable TV, and telephone wires. Don't interrupt your service or that of your neighbors. Contact your utility companies before work begins. Call before you dig.
Welcome back to the second half of the Milan Vrab Memorial Fruit Hotel Cup, semi-final match between Italia Flyers and Sudbury United. Score at the half 1-0 for the Flyers, and we have an update from the other semi-final. Corsi Masonry and Croatia Adria tied 1-1, and they just got their second half underway. Number 12, Chris Binks, scoring the only goal at the 23rd minute for the Flyers, and they come right back. Peterson up, Joe Hamer with it, to Giacomo Antonio up in the middle for Tantalo and Sherlock are battling. The Giacomo Antonio to Hamer in the middle. Hamer chips it up, and noticing Frank Anselmo is back in for Sudbury United now, Frank, and that scoring punch that you mentioned should be there. Rob Scarcelloni with it. Scarcelloni up for Izzy Rubai. Rubai with it. Rubai into the middle for Hamer, too far. Matt Binks with it, and Binks clears it out of harm's way. Number 2, Roy Fabiani with it. And Gino Rocca with it for the Italia Flyers. And he'll put it into play. Your assessment of the first half so far, Frank? Or actually the first half, period.
Essentially what we saw is a pretty tight game with the Flyers maybe taking advantage of one or two opportunities in the box, one of which landed them a penalty shot and resulted in an excellent kick by Chris Binks to make it a 1-0 game at this point in time. Sudbury United is certainly having to not only battle the 1-0 lead that's against them, but also having to battle the wind in the second half.
Certainly the wind has picked up a little. It's coming actually into our faces, more or less from a southeasterly direction. And Renato Nicolucci has the ball now. Nicolucci sending it over, looking for Tantalo. Tantalo can't get to it as Bryson clears it out. And Marino Scarcelloni comes out and waits for it to go back in his box. Frank Kuznik pressing the issue to force Scarcelloni to retreat a bit on that play. Certainly Sudbury United has to open it up a bit here. As we mentioned, 35-minute halves here, and they're down 1-0 here on TV7. Brunet and Tantalo go up for it. And once again, a little bit of extra shoving and a crowd, and we're going to have another conversation. Pietro D'Angelo is certainly going to earn his check today, and I think he has to keep those whistles coming, or else it's not going to get any better.
No, and that's his only recourse. He's clearly has to stop the game at that point. He can't allow that kind of thing to go on, or it's going to escalate into something well beyond the control of the referee.
Renato Nicolucci will put it into play for Sudbury United, their captain, jostling a little bit forward as to position. Iggy Spatafora on that far side watching for offsides, and a little indecision there, and play will resume. Nicolucci goes off the wall. Nicolucci chips it up, and the offside flag is up, but comes back down. Obviously, the referee missed something there, but the ball is cleared out of harm's way as Fabiani clears it back in, and this time the flag goes up offside. A little protesting from the Italia Flyers bench on that play, right?
Yes, the linesman had his flag up, clearly indicating an offside situation. The referee chose to let the play go on, or may not have seen the play.
As the ball will be put into play by Bryson. Bryson sending it up, looking for Peterson. DiGiacomo with it now. Chris Binks can't control it. It goes into touch, and the throw in for Sudbury United. Just into the second half, as I mentioned, semifinal action of the Milan Vrab Memorial Fruit Hotel Cup Tournament. Italia Flyers are up 1-0 on Sudbury United. Ball skips over D'Agostino's head, but Scarcelloni clears it up. Palladino sends Tantalo going. Tantalo being marked by Matt Binks. Tantalo running still. It goes over the line, and it will be keeper's ball. Definitely that ball went in over the line off of Tantalo.
Tantalo looking for an infraction, but the referee, actually the linesman on the far side, Mr. Spatafar, accurately calling it a goal kick at that point.
And the Flyers will put it back into play. Bryson sending it up, looking for Dowling. Play or a whistle on that play as it's put in quickly by Sudbury United. DiGiacomo up for Rubai. Rubai putting it in the middle for Hamer. Hamer can't control it. Frank Anselmo gets it. Anselmo still with it, sending it for Rubai. Rubai just can't get to it. Corrals it now. Being marked by Chris Binks. He sends it in the middle for Nicolucci. Nicolucci with the control. Sends it forward to DiGiacomo. DiGiacomo into the middle. Hamer with it. Hamer can't get a boot on it and loses control. Peterson with it for the Flyers. A solid chance for Sudbury United on that play.
Flyers are very lucky there. It just seemed to bounce off one of the defenders there, and he just couldn't get the kind of shot that he would have wanted.
Couldn't get leather on leather as Marino Scarcelloni sends it into play. Palladino sends it forward. Dowling back for Bryson, but Rob Scarcelloni ends up with it now. Scarcelloni is fouled. Some words exchanged there between Scarcelloni and Peterson, but the ball will be put into play by Sudbury United. Scarcelloni sending it up. Anselmo and Lewin couldn't do much with it. Matt Binks and Tantalo. Marino DiGiacomo plays it off the defender's head, and Rocca goes to the far side of the box to corral it, and he'll send it on its way. Rob Scarcelloni puts it up. Dowling sends it forward. Mario D'Agostino loses it to Kuznik. 3 Flyers around that ball right now. Kuznik with it. Kuznik and Nicolucci going at it. Over to Peterson, and the handball on Peterson there. Tried to sneak away on that one, but right in front of the linesman, and that flag went up pretty quick.
With his body away from the referee, decided that he might be able to maneuver the ball in the direction that he wanted with his hand. Sometimes that's a yellow card infraction.
Certainly, but obviously the linesman caught it, and it just goes as a turnover. Roy Fabiani with it, over to Palladino. Dan Palladino back to Fabiani. Fabiani trying to keep it in play, and he does on that far side to Tantalo. Tantalo coming down, being pursued by Matt Binks. Tantalo into the middle. It's cleared out by Glenn Bryson. Scooter Sherlock with it. And it's picked up by Dan Palladino. Palladino and Sherlock battling. Renato Nicolucci avoids a tackle. Into the middle for Hamer. Hamer over to Palladino. Palladino forward in the middle. No one there. DiGiacomo with it. DiGiacomo up to Frank Anselmo. Anselmo looking for Hamer there. Roy Fabiani with it. Fabiani back.
That last play there, Frank had the ball. Normally, I think he would have taken the shot. Clearly, his choosing of the option of having to pass it off tells us something about his condition.
Thomas Black will make the throw in for Italia Flyers. We're about 7.5 minutes into the second half here. The Flyers are up 1-0 on a goal by Matt Binks at the 23rd minute. Joe Hamer with it now. Hamer coming up. Hamer to Rubai. Rubai with it. Rubai trying to send Tantalo free, he did, and Tantalo sends a shot to the net, and Gino Rocca is up to the task. A weak shot, but the Sudbury United are showing a little bit more here in the second half.
I was just going to say that, John. They clearly are putting the pressure on, working hard. They want to recapture that goal and stay in competition in terms of the finals of this tournament.
Nice tackle by Pat Sherlock, who in turn gets downed by DiGiacomo. Luian and Palladino are battling for it, and the whistle goes. And number 17, Colin Lowy, I think it's Luian. If I'm mispronouncing that, I'll hear about it. But the ball's turned over to Sudbury United, and Renato Nicolucci will once again set the play. Putting it up, Rob Scarcelloni getting up there, and it just goes wide, but the defender, Rob Scarcelloni, coming up there to use his size, and he almost equalized it for Sudbury United.
That's the second very near serious situation for the Flyers. Another yard to the right, I guess, would have definitely resulted in a tied game.
Luian comes out. He's replaced by number 14, Lenny Samuels. Both teams kind of moderate substitutions, I'd say, at this point, Frank. As the ball goes by Rob Scarcelloni, Scarcelloni and Peterson are going after it, and it's put into the net. The keeper not quite decided what he'll do, but he puts the ball into play in the air. Sherlock and Palladino after it. Samuels with it in the middle now. Samuels over to Peterson. Peterson coming up. Peterson sending it up. Mario D'Agostino will pick it up and put it into the keeper, who quickly plays out to Nicolucci. Nicolucci up there to Hamer. Hamer picked off by Sherlock. Sherlock and Dowling over to Frank Kuznik. Kuznik puts it up, but no one was there. And Kuznik ruining the fact that he put a perfectly good ball into literally no man's land. Scarcelloni sending it forward. Tantalo back to Palladino. Palladino plays it, but it goes off of Sherlock. Sherlock with a 2-on-1 with Kuznik. Kuznik and Dowling, and Frank let her rip, but it goes wide of the target.
Yeah, full credit to Mr. D'Agostino there. He had literally two men to watch, and I think he positioned himself well to make sure that that Frank Kuznik didn't get a good clear shot away at net.
And certainly in the 2-on-1, he took away the option of the pass, leaving the shooter for the keeper. Goes out of harm's way. We're about 10.5 minutes in this second half. Italia Flyers are up 1-0 in this Milan Vrab Memorial Fruit Hotel Cup semifinal. Scarcelloni sends it up. Tantalo and Binks go after it. Chris Binks sends it up. Dowling with it now. Dowling picked off by Fabiani over to Nicolucci. Nicolucci coming down that middle area. Nicolucci on this near side to DiGiacomo. Hamer tries to flick it to Anselmo, and the ball is cleared into the Sudbury United end, but they'll just quickly play it out. Certainly, as I mentioned, Frank Anselmo is just walking out there gingerly. It's not moving too much to get free or anything.
No, I think we've said that he is certainly injured, and so he is taking it easy. That's the best he can do. I guess we're kind of hoping for a situation where he gets the ball in the right area and is able to capitalize on. We're going to see a lot of action, aggressiveness that we normally see from Frank.
Handball called on Scooter Sherlock there, and the play set piece for Sudbury United. Once again, Nicolucci setting it up. Nicolucci puts it into play quickly, and he was trying to get Mario D'Agostino, who was breaking in, but Gino Rocca quickly caught that one, and he sends it forward. Scarcelloni over to Nicolucci. Nicolucci and Kuznik battling. Kuznik sends it over the far side. Fabiani has it. Fabiani with it. Dan Palladino now. Palladino is brought down a little violently, and as a result, the foul is called. Sudbury United will put into play. Looking for Frank Anselmo. Anselmo's open. The shot. Nice save, Gino Rocca. Joe Hamer. He scores. Joe Hamer, number 6, off the rebound from Gino Rocca. And actually, we have to credit who we've been saying is injured all along.
Absolutely.
Frank Anselmo comes up with a blistering shot, the long rebound, and it's in the net at the 48th minute.
And really, it came down to what we said. He was literally standing there waiting for the ball. Received it, though, and just to show you this kind of talent he has, is cranked it right, unfortunately, at the goalie. I should say the goalie made a good save as well. And Mr. Hamer was there to take advantage of the rebound.
So it's 1-1 here now. A substitution for the Italia Flyers. Number 5, John Rocca, comes back in. Once again, as I mentioned, the 48th minute. 13 minutes into the second half, and we're tied up at 1-1. And of course, we do have to have a winner here, Frank, today.
That's right.
So while we still have lots of time left, we could see overtime and the dreaded penalty kicks. But that time will tell on that.
Wouldn't that be exciting, huh?
There you go.
First time on Cable 7, or it's Community Channel 7.
Same difference, it's on that channel.
I was told in a previous broadcast not to say Cable 7.
Well, you're not lying, Frank, but we've been chastised enough, as the truck just did, and a set piece for the Italia Flyers, John Rocca, to put it into play. Rocca sending it up, but no one broke to it, and Scarcelloni brings it, so he will send it into play. Certainly, one of the advantages of having an experienced keeper like Marino is that he generally puts a good ball up there for his wingers to get to. As Peterson plays off of Rob Scarcelloni, Rubai, nice heel pass there to Scarcelloni, but the Flyers pick it up. John Rocca sends it up. Frank Kuznik with it. Kuznik and Fabiani, and the nice save by Marino Scarcelloni. But once again, Frank Kuznik is making his presence felt to that Sudbury United defense, Frank.
Yes, sir. When Frank has the ball, you know you're in for some excitement, and certainly Sudbury United knows that. They're going to have to mark him very closely.
Well, I think his being marked closely in the first half by Dino Cacciati was a factor. Noticing Dino hasn't come back from when he went off in the first half, and the ball goes into touch, and Italia Flyers will play the throw-in. Dowling tried to get it, but D'Agostino picks it up. D'Agostino sends it back to the keeper quickly. We've got about 20 minutes left in this second half, and the wind is starting to pick up a little more, and it's going to become a factor as Scarcelloni sends it forward. Samuels has it picked off by Scarcelloni. Frank Kuznik breaking in. I think a healthy Frank Kuznik could have made a little more of a play on that, and as it was, he put enough pressure on the keeper that he had to think quickly. Ball's flicked up by Frank Kuznik, Scarcelloni. So really right now it's interesting how the teams, or certainly Sudbury United, is pulled back a bit.
I was just going to say that, John. I should anticipate a little more of a defensive game, given that they're in it. But it remains to be seen whether either of these teams want to play defensively.
Brunet misplays that ball. Frank Kuznik Frank Anselmo had all sorts of time, and he looked like Scott Norwood there, and when Corey Brunet came over there, he went down hard, and the Dr. Pearsall, the team physician, quickly hustles out there to see what happened there, but Frank had all sorts of time on that misplay by Corey Brunet.
That looks serious, too. Frank doesn't have a history of going down easy, so this is legitimate pain. The other thing I should mention is that he did receive the ball, and he was in position to take the shot, but I think, you could tell that he didn't have the kind of strength and agility that he normally has. He really couldn't plant himself there.
He has the upper part of that left leg bandaged up, and right now Dr. Pearsall is looking at the ankle area, and Frank is not looking like he's in the most comfortable position right now.
No, and it's one of those situations where it certainly wasn't intentional. Both players were going for the ball. It's just unfortunate they made contact there.
Actually, I think Corey's fortunate that Frank's shot went awry, because it was his error that left Frank that wide open position. And Frank gets up, and it appears as if he's going to walk it off under his own power. I'm quite sure we haven't heard the last of Frank Anselmo, as always. As they get ready to put the ball back into play, the Flyers on the goal kick. So we'll undoubtedly have a little extra time there. We had about 2 minutes on that as the ball goes into touch and the throw in for Sudbury United. The throw in, Nicolucci, Hamer with it. Hamer, and it's back. Bryson sending it forward, looking for Dowling. Lenny Samuels picks it up in the middle. Samuels breaking out, sending over that far side for Chris Binks. It's Binks and Fabiani for the United. Binks sends it forward, Frank Kuznik with it, but it's picked up by Dan Palladino. Samuels picks it up. Chris Binks with it now. Binks coming across the middle, sends the shot forward. Steve Peterson trying to make sure he doesn't get offside. The attempted scissor kick, and the ball goes over the end line. But certainly the Italia Flyers are looking like they're starting to press a little bit.
Yeah, I think they're in a situation where they certainly would like to sort of be able to regain that lead. This is a team that they may not want to go into penalty shots with, given the experience of the goalies and some of the shooters that participate in that exercise.
Ball goes into touch off of the Flyers, and the throw in for Sudbury United. As you can hear, or will no doubt hear, the wind howling at this point. Certainly not from Hurricane Bob down off the Atlantic coast, but nonetheless, it will definitely have an effect, I think, as we press on in this second half, as Roy Fabiani now has it. Fabiani putting it up for Palladino. Palladino with it. Palladino up for Hamer. Hamer with it on that far side. Hamer and Brunet collide, and Brunet comes up with that. Good defensive work on his part. Rubai coming up to try to get from him. Ball's put forward. Fabiani and Kuznik are going after it, and the whistle went, or did it, but play goes on. D'Agostino sending up for Rubai. Matt Binks has it go off of him. It goes into touch. The throw in for Sudbury United. A bit of a break for them.
Both teams are still look to have a lot of energy and are moving well up and down the field.
This is true. Joe Hamer with it. Hamer and Sherlock colliding once again. They've kind of had their own little conversations and set to the experienced veteran against the rookie. Certainly in the first half we saw Dino Cacciati and Frank Kuznik going at it a lot. So lots of little sideshows to the main show. As Rubai puts it into the middle, ball's put out of the way by Rocca. DiGiacomo trying to get through there, scrambling in the box as Matt Binks comes up with it and clears it. Players all clear out, so there's no offside. Ball's put forward by Palladino. Sherlock with it. Sherlock and Palladino collide. Fabiani comes up. It's into the middle. Hamer and DiGiacomo into the middle for Mario D'Agostino. D'Agostino clearly in the net. Gino Rocca knocks that one aside. Tantalo with it now. Tantalo and Peterson collide. Getting a little physical here right now as Tantalo, Peterson, and Rocca, and finally an infraction called on that one. But nothing to the point of causing a disadvantage there, but eventually something had to give and the foul was called.
Flyers scrambling a little bit there, looking to be a little bit caught off guard. And I'm wondering if maybe they're a little bit intimidated by the fact that we've got a tight game here.
As DiGiacomo puts it in the middle, number 4, Mario D'Agostino, puts it in the net, and it's 2-1 for Sudbury United. Nice set piece there.
Absolutely, and actually what's very interesting about that goal is that he's in front of the goal post, and he literally has to direct that ball back towards the goal and into the net. And that's a good indication of the kind of skill that's required to be a good forward.
At the 57th minute, the score now reads 2-1 Sudbury United, and they are full credit for that play. Marino DiGiacomo with the ball into the middle. Mario D'Agostino in the right place, got his head on the leather, and it was in the net. I don't think Gino Rocca could have done much on that one.
Not at all, not given where the ball was coming from and the kind of pace that was on it. Tables have turned, and now we'll have to see if the Flyers can dig deep and get back into this.
Certainly those young ladies are going to have to press a little bit as Samuels has it. Samuels and Tantalo collide. Tantalo comes up with it. Tantalo to DiGiacomo. DiGiacomo sending it up. It goes through Brunet's legs. Here we go as Frank Anselmo sends a ball. It goes off of Rocca's foot. Tantalo getting at it. Tantalo puts it in the net. It's 3-1 Sudbury United. A misplay there by Corey Brunet, number 2, sets the table for Frank Anselmo and Americo Tantalo, and all of a sudden, it's 3-1 for Sudbury United.
Bit of a miscue, and Tantalo full credit for being persistent and hanging in there, and as you saw, it translated into goal.
At the 59th minute, and we have substitutions as Americo quickly comes off and pulls out a cancer stick. Substitutions for Sudbury United, the number 22, Carino Cimino, and number 11, Cesare Pacino.
We just want to say that's not indicative of the league itself.
But it was comical. Renato Nakalucci has it now, and definitely the Flyers are going to have to press on as they are down 3-1. And the whistle, and things probably going to get a little more rough. Not that they haven't been rough already. And the whistle goes, and the Flyers will put it into play.
Just going to say that, John. I'm concerned now that things might get a little out of hand given the situation in terms of the scoring.
As Brunet puts it forward, ball got flicked forward into the goal area, but Scarcelloni saves it. So right now you have to give the advantage to Sudbury United as they are up 3-1. A couple of lapses by the Italia Flyers, and that's where we stand as Rubai and Nicolucci are with it. Nicolucci sending it up for Rubai. Rubai and Matt Binks. Rubai sending into that middle area, but no one there for him. And Rocca comes up with it. Mario D'Agostino heads it over to the near side here, and the Flyers quickly want to get it back in. John Rocca coming up. The throw-in. Approximately 11 minutes left in this second half as Cimino with it. Cimino, sorry, with it up to Matt Binks. Scooter Sherlock's down on that one right now. Play is going on. Sherlock is up. Scarcelloni with it. Looking for Cimino again. Chris Binks has it. John Rocca with it. Rocca up. Looking for Peterson. Peterson and Scarcelloni are going after it. Goes over the end line, and Sudbury United.
This Sudbury United team is a truly remarkable team. If there was a team that could come back, these are the guys. There's a wealth of experience and talent at them. Despite the age, they continue to dominate. It's remarkable. I think the average age is probably the tail end of the 20s, maybe even older than that, but they still are able to put it together.
As we have a couple substitutions for the Italia Flyers, number 19, Berto Drigo, and number 18, Thomas Black come in. They replace number 20, Scott Peterson, and number 8, Scooter Sherlock. But the ball is put into play by Scarcelloni. Pacino with it on this near side. Pacino into the middle for Cimino. Cimino and for Nicolucci. He can't corral it. Chris Binks comes back. Binks sending it up, looking for Bryson. Bryson in a forward spot now. It's put in the middle, and Scarcelloni quickly squashes that attempt. I think you'll find Sudbury United will definitely go into a bit of a shell here with this 2-goal lead as Mario D'Agostino has it. D'Agostino and Nicolucci with it. Nicolucci sending it up for Pacino. Cimino with it. Cimino with goal! It's 4-1 Sudbury United. I think we can turn out the lights on this one, Frank.
I think we can. So much for a penalty shot situation.
I think I cursed somebody on that mention.
I think the wind might have had a factor in that goal because it was a good shot, no doubt about it, but it kind of floated on the goalie a bit, and I think he kind of miscued and misjudged it and was right into the net. Not taking anything away from the shooter, but I think looking at the velocity, there's a bit of a wind factor there.
Carino Cimino at the 61st minute. And we've got massive substitutions now for Italia Flyers. Number 22, Aki Kazavetsis, and number 17, Colin Lewin comes back in. So I think it's safe to say with about 8 minutes left that Sudbury United are through to the final of the Milan Vrab Memorial Frood Hotel Cup final, which will be played tomorrow evening. Probably by the time you see it, it may be over. Monday, August 19th. And they'll play the winner of the other match, Corsi Masonry and Croatia Adria. We haven't heard an update on that one. Dan Palladino with it. Palladino over the far side for Rubai. back to Fabiani. As I mentioned, they're just going to go into a bit of a defensive shell, trying to kill the clock as Rubai is dribbling around, sends it back to the keeper. While it's boring soccer, it's what all Sudbury United wants to do, is just run out the clock.
Well, absolutely. At this point in time, there's no benefit whatsoever in pressing this. They're going to just control the ball, and Mr. Scarcelloni is well versed in the game to know that he's not going to hurry this.
I don't think in the next 7-8 minutes 3 goals are going to get by them if he has his choice. Foul called against Sudbury United there. Italia Flyers quickly playing it up. Kazavetsis on the far side. Kazavetsis into the middle for Dowling. Dowling did miss another substitution for Sudbury United there. Number 18, Rob Segsworth, is back into the game. John Rocca within the middle now. Rocca sending it up. Looking for Bryson. Dowling coming up with it now, but D'Agostino quickly picks that off and sends it out harm's way to Dan Palladino. Palladino on this near side. Palladino sending it in the middle for Cimino. Cimino with the 4th Sudbury United goal, battling with Brunet. Lenny Samuel sends it forward, quickly headed into touch by Mario D'Agostino. And that's all we're going to see for the next little while, is Sudbury United steer everything away from the middle area. And a goal on that far side right now. Corsi Masonry, it looks like they've just gone up. We will get an unofficial confirmation of that in a minute. The foul called here on our action. A big celebration over there, so I have to assume they've gone up. And from what I understand, Corsi Masonry has certainly picked up their pace of play of late.
They have. They've improved steadily through the course of the year. They started off slow, but like we saw last year, they're the kind of team that can put it together. And as you know, John, they won last year. I think we're looking for a bit of a repeat. They'll be there anyways, one way or the other.
Certainly not a 6th place team, as the standings indicate at this point, but always when it comes playoff time, it could be dangerous. As Rubai now has it for Sudbury United. Rubai quickly just taking his time. Dan Palladino with it. Palladino just turns into the middle for Pacino. Pacino back up to Palladino. Palladino through Rocca. It goes into touch. And the throw in for the Flyers. Giacomo Antonio trying to get it. Number 19, Drigo with it. Drigo in black. And the ball cleared in by the Flyers. Hamer back to Scarcelloni. And we've got about 5 minutes left here in this match. It's 4-1 Sudbury United over Italia Flyers in this semifinal match here on TV7. D'Agostino quickly back to the keeper. So certainly, Frank, the playoffs, regular season play just about over. Playoffs are coming up. I know you're the patriarch of the Nickel City Lasers, but who do you like at this point if you have to go out on a limb?
Well, the team that you see right now in the form of Sudbury United they just have a history of being there, and I think anybody who sort of rules them out in any competition is making a big mistake. So I think we have to say that they'll probably be there someplace. The Flyers team has been hot and sometimes cold, and I think they have the capability, but it's a question of consistency. But as you said, John, you got to look to teams like Adria and Corsi, because they have the talent that could put them into certainly competition in terms of it comes down to 1 or 2 games.
Certainly, at the beginning of this game, the Flyers, as we mentioned, we weren't sure how they were going to play without 2 of their regulars, Van Zorbas and Carl Frank, who didn't play for one reason or another today. And also, when we come to playoff time, their availability will come into question because of the university season and practices, etc.
Absolutely. I was talking to Rob Gallo the other day, and if the boys are available, certainly he's going to have some strength there. I think his other concern, though, is that the playoffs may be a little bit too late for some of the players that have to return back to university or whatever.
As the ball's headed in the middle by Rob Scarcelloni, Matt Binks clearing it up for Kazavetsis, up to Bryson. Bryson putting into the middle, but quickly Dan Palladino pounces on that one. It goes over the end line, and it will be a goal. Goalkeeper's ball. Just over 3 minutes left, and Sudbury United trying to run out this clock. We're trying to finish up so we can get out of this win.
I just wanted to say, as the play stopped there, that the coach of the Flyers, Rob Gallo, pulled Frank Kuznik and Chris Binks off in terms of his last exchange, but that wasn't an indication of their play. In fact, both players did extremely well in this match. Chris scoring and Frank being very dominant up front.
Certainly the first 50 minutes of the game, Italia Flyers probably controlled most of the action as Dan Palladino, but unfortunately the dam broke for them, and as a result, that's why they're down 4-1. Cimino with it, looking for Pacino on this far side, but it goes into touch as the clock is being run out here by Sudbury United. They're up 4-1. Ball quickly into Brunet. Brunet and Cimino battling for it. Brunet still has it, being marked rather closely, and it goes into touch off of Cimino, and he doesn't mind that at all.
No, the Flyers look a little dejected. I think they're pretty well satisfied that this is clearly out of their reach, and maybe there's a little bit of, I want to say depression is a little bit strong, but at least they're backing off here a bit.
As Brunet and Rocca play a little give and go with that. And Brunet heads it forward to Jack Antonio with it. Matt Binks with it now. Binks on that far side. And I see the contest on the other pitch has ended, and I'm not sure if the game's over, if we're going to, it looks like we may be going to overtime over there. Once again, that's unofficial, as our match is almost concluded here, but no one's leaving the field, so I have to assume the other semifinal could be going to overtime.
That's interesting, John. It looked like the Corsi Masonry had won the way they celebrated that last goal, but you're right. The way they're walking off the field, that might have just tied it.
Maybe they were celebrating the tie instead.
Yeah.
But either way, if we can get confirmation of that before we're finished here, we certainly will. As Cimino sends it out over to Rob Segsworth. Segsworth on that far side. Segsworth gets it back from Rubai. Segsworth on that far side, looking to stop and put it in the middle, but Cimino picks it up. He puts it aimlessly into the middle, and Peterson picks it up. We should be near the expiration of the game as Pietro D'Angelo checks his watch on the far side, indicating there's a little more time to go, and we have a throw-in for Sudbury United. And actually, after that throw-in, it is the conclusion of full time. So your final score is Sudbury United 4, Italia Flyers 1. United will move on to the final of the Milan Vrab Memorial Food Hotel Cup. For Frank Malvasso, I'm John Metcalf. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.